Zelda is no doubt one of the most successful series of all time, renowned for its dungeons, bosses, combat, and more, with lore and secrets hiding behind every corner of the land. And the most recent game, Tears of the Kingdom, is absolutely massive, but it definitely lacks in some areas. And with Eiji Aonuma talking about his visions for the future of Zelda, it's timely to look at what the next game could be like. So without further ado, let's dive into the next Zelda game predictions, part 2. Dungeons. Dungeons have always been the thing that carries you along the story, solving puzzles and traversing a dark and unknown area. A mystery in the land that always leads to this massive temple. At least, that's what dungeons used to be. But it doesn't feel the same as Twilight Princess or Ocarina of Time. It's not as grand and mysterious because it's an open world where you can do anything, and dungeons were made to not be as challenging. Since we got the news that Zelda will continue this open world, this may feel disappointing, and that there's no hope for grand dungeons, but this isn't actually the case. Nintendo knows to listen to their fans, so they know that dungeons, being somewhat like the old Zelda games, is very necessary in the next Hyrule. The dungeons would be unique and challenging, based on what you could do, whether that's climbing, sneaking, or any other ability that Link can do. And in every room, it would be something different, an entire puzzle centered around it until the final boss. And speaking of bosses, they are the biggest part of dungeons. A giant scorpion, a serpent dragon said to have been killed by a legendary Goron. Tears of the Kingdom, on the other hand, had alright bosses. They were just very easy and simple. You may even remember me making a joke before and saying my baby sister could be Colgera. In other words, they were very easy. In the next game, give them more attacks, more health, and make them harder to kill. Combat. Combat is obviously one of the biggest parts of Zelda. In some games, it's simply swinging your sword, and in others, you have to watch carefully how the enemy attacks and counter it when you can. Nothing is better than going into a room and the door shutting behind you as you are faced with a massive beast, which you must duel to the death, and finding weak spots to take it down. The next game shouldn't have combat like Tears of the Kingdom or Twilight Princess. It should be a combination of both, and new unique abilities mixed with magic or items. But make fighting with a sword different. More attacks, more dodges. That is how you make good combat. The constant trying over and over again until you begin to comprehend the enemy's attacks and take it down. But there's also another side of combat, and that is the weapon system. Now, with Nintendo continuing this open world, they are definitely continuing the same weapon system as Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. But you can still combine this epic combat system even with this. You put certain weapons into certain classes, which they have already done, and you let the player acquire more and more strikes and attacks for different classes. But I also thought of another idea, and it's if you expand on this so much, then you let the player master their preferred weapon, letting the player forge their own path with the style of fighting they like best. Now for the final thing, Link's abilities. The hero in every game has abilities. Most famously, Tears of the Kingdom, Link has the Zonai Ruins. Breath of the Wild, Link has the Sheikah Slate. But what will Link's abilities be in the next game? Eiji Aonuma said that they have no plans to continue the Zonai abilities, like Ultra Hand for the next game, and want to create completely new abilities for Link in the next world. Now, we have no idea the direction or the story the next game will take, therefore it's hard to really know what powers or skills Link will have. But there are certain ideas that it's possible might just be in the next game. For instance, all the abilities being possessed by Link's companion. Now, this is of course assuming Link will have a companion in the next game, which we don't know right now. But here's the thing, it would give a sense of this companion also being sort of like a combat companion or helping with puzzles. The powers being in Link's companion lets it feel like they are actually useful instead of just being an element of the story and them telling you what to do when you're stuck. Now, for example, let's say they give Link a fairy companion. like Navi. Her powers could be slowing down time for a couple seconds, or giving Link the ability to jump great heights. There are many more I could come up with, but the point is it's definitely a cool idea, since they really haven't done it. The closest thing is Minda in her hand, though I do think the abilities in Tears of the Kingdom were absolutely phenomenal, as do many other fans, so whatever Nintendo chooses for the powers, they should be like Tears of the Kingdom, giving the game its own unique take on Zelda. Thank you so much for watching the video, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button and like the video so we can get to 2,000 subs. And with all that said, I'll see you in the next one.